Look around you. Here in the 7th Cavalry, we have a captain from the Ukraine and another from Puerto Rico. We have Japanese, Chinese, blacks, Hispanics, Cherokee Indians, Jews and Gentiles, all Americans. Now, in this unit, some men may face discrimination because of race or creed, but for you and me now, that is over. We are moving into the valley of the shadow of death, where you will watch the back of the man next to you as he will watch yours, and you won't care what color he is, what race he is, or by what name he calls God. They say that we're leaving home. We're going into what home was always supposed to be. So let's try and understand the situation. We are going into battle against a tough and determined enemy. And I can't promise that I can bring you all back alive. But this, I swear, before you and before Almighty God, that I will be the first to set foot onto that field, and I will be the last to step off. And I will leave no one behind. Dead or alive, we are all coming home together. So help me God.
Please stand for the presentation of the flags, followed by the singing of the national anthem by Kylie Young.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight were the ramparts we watched, were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Please be seated. Welcome to our 11th annual Hour with the Hero ceremony. We are pleased to introduce to you Mr. Clint Flood.
Master Sergeant Clint Flood enlisted into the U.S. Army in August of 1995. He served 8 years on active duty. Upon exiting active duty, he enlisted into the Arkansas Army National Guard in October of 2003. He has served in recruiting and retention since 2004. He has been married to his beautiful wife, Crystal, for 19 years and has 2 just as beautiful daughters, Samantha, 19, and Alexis, 17. Please give a warm welcome to our hero of the hour, Mr. Clint Flood.
Thank you very much. Hello and good morning. Not sure that you had much of a choice, but I do thank you very much for coming this hour and listening to me. I'm going to start off by giving you a real short, a little bit longer bio on how I actually got to where I am today. As the bio said that you heard a little bit earlier, in August of '95 is when I joined the active duty. How I got there is I went to school in a little bitty town, Ola, Arkansas, Yale County, south of Dardanelle, if you all are not aware. We had 28 people graduating class. I was a 3-sport athlete, played football, basketball, and baseball. And I thought that that's how I was going to go to college. I was planning on college. Some of you may be planning on college today, and some of you also, I'm going to walk around a little bit, some of you also may be planning to just enter the workforce or, go to a technical or a trade school. My plan was college, all right? So I thought that I was going to be able to do it either by football. My secondary option was baseball, and then my tertiary, my third option, I was going to try to go basketball. Well, I ended up getting injured my senior year. I busted up my right ankle, first play from scrimmage in football. Rehabbed, got a lot better. Played basketball, did well, and last away game in basketball. Young man, at the time, I guess I was the same age, caught it on the baseline, driving baseline. It was off of a fast break. I was defending, jumped up, fouled him. He made it. He didn't duck it on us, though. And I came down and injured my left ankle. So at that point, I was like, okay, I've got to go to college somehow. It's not going to be sports because I'm obviously accident prone. So I started working. Now, mind you, at this point, I've not mentioned anything military. Whenever I was in high school, I was absolutely the very last person you would think would go into the military. Wasn't my choice, wasn't even my last choice. However, there were folks that had talked to me about it. So I went to work. I was actually working in a chicken plant, Dardanelle, and I was doing well. I was 17. I graduated at 17. I had a little bit of money in the bank. My mom was she worked at a convenience store. My dad worked at a sawmill. They was not going to be able to help me. I did not prepare. There's juniors and seniors out here in the class today. One thing I will do before I really talk veteran stuff is, number one, encourage you to start preparing now on what you're going to do after you graduate, because it's going to come like that. Because it did for me. It did for me. I was working. I was doing well, paying my own way. I was at the cashier's cage of college. She told me how much it was going to cost. That was taking half of what I had in my account away, and I knew that I had to pay for another semester. I knew that I had to pay for, 6 more semesters after that year, in order to just do it in 4. Hopefully I would have graduated in 4. And right then I realized I've got to do something else. I must do something else. So I walked away. My father was he was a Marine, like the gentleman that spoke to the last class. He was a former Marine. So I went straight to the Marine Corps office, and I said, I want 2 things. I want college money, and I want to jump out of planes. Now, I say that to say this: I'm terrified of heights. So the Marine recruiter, he looked at me, he said, we can give you college money. And again, still at that point, I'm standing in front of a Marine recruiter with no desire to serve in the military. None whatsoever. I just wanted college money. He said, we can give you college money. However, in order to go and jump out of planes in the Marine Corps, you have to, go recon Marine. You have to do all other stuff and meet a lot of things. I said, okay, well, thank you very much. And I walked right next door to the Army. And like the short bio here said, I walked in and I said almost the same thing. Well, I said exactly the same thing. I said, Sergeant, I want 2 things. I want college money, I want to jump out of planes. And he said, all right. So I pumped gas for 8 years on active duty. One thing I did not do, I wasn't able to do on active duty because I was in units that, it was infantry units. I personally was a fueler, so I wasn't infantry. And it was very busy, very high tempo. To fast forward a little bit, I got out of active duty in 2003 because my last 3 years in Germany, I saw my wife and kids, which you heard here, Crystal, Samantha, and Alexis. I saw them 7 months out of 3 years, and I wanted more. I had not gotten my college at that point, and I wanted more. So, which brings me to the Army National Guard. I joined the Army. When I got out, I thought, okay, let's enter the workforce and try to go to college. And I was trying to go to college through what we had, like the benefits that I'd received on active duty. But I also had that family that I had to take care of, so I needed to work. But more importantly, what happened to me at that point is I missed my other family. I missed that active duty. I missed putting the uniform on every day. So I joined the Army National Guard, the Arkansas National Guard. And you guys are seeing pictures of my deployment, which I'm getting to. So I joined the Arkansas Guard, and almost immediately I was working full-time helping a recruiter. My current position right now, I am the NCOIC, non-commissioned officer in charge, over recruiting and retention, Bravo Company 1st Platoon. Sergeant Brown, you saw him come out with the color guard. He is you all's recruiter, and I'm sure some of you already seen him, may even talked to him. I've got him and 12 other recruiters from Bentonville, Rogers area, all the way down to the Waldron area. So I am currently serving, and I absolutely love it. I'm going to stay until they kick me out. But to back up, I was working in recruiting, and I thought, okay, you know, let's do this. So I loved the military, absolutely loved it. So why not get anybody and everybody, you know, come with me. So I recruited for the Ozark unit down in, for the Charlie Batter 2nd Battalion, 142nd down in Ozark. I put 25 kids in that unit. Now, while I was on active duty, I got to do things like air assault school in Hawaii. I got to go to Joint Readiness Training Center down in Fort Polk, Louisiana, and play in the woods for several months at a time. I got to go to Kosovo and do some peacekeeping tours there in Jelani and Camp Bondsteel. But I was recruiting for this unit, this field artillery unit down in Ozark, and I put 25 kids in. I personally, at this point, I had never been to actual combat. The peacekeeping tour that we was at, it was still in a hostile time in that area, but it wasn't combat. In 2006, the Ozark unit, they got the call. And those 25 kids that I had put in, I couldn't watch them leave having asked them to come in and do something that I wouldn't do or I haven't done. So at that point, what I did is I resigned my job as a recruiter, so I quit, not having anything to come back to, and I deployed with those 25 kids. And obviously the rest of the unit, there was about 80-something of us. Obviously, I left my wife and kids for another period of time, which is why I got out of active duty. So, and I know you guys see some pictures. There are some of my guys in the pictures up here, and you know I'm gonna point some things out to you guys while I tell this story. They asked me to come and tell a story today. I do have several fun stories. I've got some sad stories, and I've got some interesting stories. The story that I chose to talk about today, it's not necessarily doom and gloom or anything like that, but I think it's very interesting. And what I would like to do is, you know, share with you guys and just point some things out towards the end of the story about the military. So it was May 28th of 2007. It was Memorial Day. And so what we did over there as a unit, we was a field artillery unit, but we didn't have that mission. The mission that we had was convoy escort. And okay, real quick, that was the day going over. I did not like flying. I don't like flying. That's what that was. There are pictures up here. I do have a picture of what it looked like in our convoys and what a convoy is. We had 6 gun trucks, and there were 3 people per gun truck. And these are the Humvees that had a driver, a truck commander, and a gunner. So you have the gunner mounted on top. What we did, and I was a convoy commander, and what we did is we escorted 30 to 32 vehicles, big diesel trucks. And now these trucks, they were actually driven by, not military personnel, but they were driven by what we called TCNs, third country nationals. They could have been from Pakistan, they could have been from Egypt or anywhere like that. They were third country nationals. So needless to say, it was a very long, and I keep going back to convoy, but a very long, just one unit of vehicles. Obviously, our threats at the time, while we were over there were small arms fire, which is your AK-47s. We also had the threat of RPG, rocket-propelled grenades. If you all have ever heard, and I guess the most common term is roadside bombs, or we call them IEDs, which is improvised explosive device. And there are many ways that those come out, either underbelly attack, where they dig it up and they put it in the ground, you drive over it. The blast comes from the bottom. And the most dangerous that we dealt with was, they're called EFPs, explosive formed projectiles. And a lot of times what they would do is they'd put a copper plate or anything on the front of a huge block of, and more acronyms here, HME, homemade explosives. And what would happen is that copper would heat up and it would form like I guess just a sphere, to go through, and it actually melted the armor. Our vehicles are very safe over there, very safe. The armor is excellent. But these EFPs would actually melt the armor, so those were our threats. And we was on the road the way we did. We would run 3 days. We would leave from where we are. We'd go north, taking the supplies, whether it would be sometimes believe it or not, sometimes ice cream. All right, we would take ice cream and food, and we'd take supplies and things like that up north to those individuals, because we was down closer to Kuwait, but we'd take it up to the other. They would get their food, they would get ammo, we'd get just different things like that. And that's what we did. One day we would leave, we would get there, and we traveled at night that way. So they had a curfew over there. That way we'd be a lot of the only folks on the road, a lot safer for us. So we travel north, 3 days. Really a 3-day turnaround is typical, and that's what we would do. On the 4th day, we would kind of have a maintenance day, and the 5th day was an admin or a rest day before we'd go out again. And then sometimes, different things would change that. So we was on, I guess, day 2. We had went up to Taji. We'd already taken a convoy up to Taji. And matter of fact, this is the group that I was with. I actually changed while I was over there. It was these guys right here that I was with. And it's not this group that you're seeing here. This was the second group that I was with. But we was up in Taji. And have y'all heard about how the sandstorms are over there, the weather and things like that? Anybody? It can be interactive if you guys like. So the sandstorms can get bad. Sometimes they're so bad that our medical helicopters do not fly. They're grounded. Command is very adamant about convoys rolling. We've got to get going and keep going. So this night, May 28th, it was a Monday, 2007, the weather was bad. Sandstorm in the area, a little bit of rain, which for me to tell you guys, whenever there is dirt and sand in the air and it's raining, it actually rains mud. Mud hits your vehicle and you've got mud falling from the sky. Command was very, very adamant about, us getting back south. Because what happens is once you go north, they empty everything. You pick up another set of empty trucks to go back south and get loaded up. Obviously, with the route like it was, and when I say route, they've got color codes. Route was black because of medevac. Well, we was ready to go, so what we did is we staged up. We picked up our convoy, our 30 trucks that were empty and needed to go back south, and we just had to wait. So as we're waiting, and you know, the route, it just keeps changing. All right, well, it's red right now. Still don't want to really push on red because in the event something does happen, you know, that medevac can't come and help us out. And, you know, nobody else is on the road because of medevac. Actually, the story I'm telling is this group right here. Guy in the middle, he's my driver. The guy on the left, and that's Dusty Thomas. The guy on the left is Cedric Blackman. He was my gunner, and he actually had the experience, had already deployed. I was a convoy commander, and we were the scout truck. To explain what the scout truck is, it's the vehicle that's probably 200, 300, 400 meters out ahead of the rest of the folks that are, you know, obviously behind us, and we are looking for, you know, the danger, the threats, more so the IEDs, EFPs, things of that nature. So the route went green for a little bit, and, you know, obviously we didn't have our cell phones, we didn't have a weather channel or anything like that to know if it was going to stay good or go back bad or anything. So we pushed, and I was the convoy commander. I made the call. Okay, well, let's get back. Let's go ahead and make it back. Probably about 5 minutes after we left the gate, you know, we have the radios. We got the call that, hey, medevac is black again. Well, that's the same group. This right here was in BIOP, which is Baghdad International Airport. That was my anniversary, right there. So, and as a matter of fact, if you look at the date, that is probably roughly 2 weeks before the story that I'm telling you guys. So we're out. We're traveling south. It's obviously dark because we do travel at night. The weather is bad. Our TTP, which really what we call it, it's the way we work and operate and things like that, we have to drive no more than 35 miles per hour, which you think, okay, that makes you a softer target because you're going slow and they can take aim better and things like that. But that was just the TTP we had. Others, they had TTPs where they just rolled, and they rolled fast. The Air Force, you know, that was their thing, is let's just go and get it over with, which, you know, good or bad, whichever one works and whichever one intel tells us is better. So we're going south from Taji. You know, a round trip typically, or one-way trip, typically takes us about 7, 8, sometimes, you know, more hours. So we're going, and, you know, we have radios inside our vehicle to be able to talk to everybody. The people that we can't talk to is the TCN, the third country nationals that are driving the trucks. Their trucks are very soft, no armor or anything like that. So I remember the whole thing, but one thing I do remember right before this happens is I keyed up and I talked to everybody, because you can key up and talk just to your truck, or you can key up and talk to all 6 vehicles. And I said, well, it's a good thing, guys. You know, the enemy don't like to play in this stuff. And what I was referring to, obviously, was the weather. Rain and mud and the wind and the sand. How I was wrong. All right, so shortly thereafter, a couple minutes after, I tell my driver to stop. All right, one thing that you gain while you were over there is what's called situational awareness. And certain things will stick out to you, and a heightened alertness. So what I stopped on was, and again, obviously we have the convoy behind us, you know, stop as well, and they've got their distance from us, and they really can't see what's going on. One thing, and I have a little bit adult ADHD, I'm kind of referring back here, some of the most beautiful sunsets, call me sappy if you want to, 21-year veteran, I still get, some of the most beautiful sunsets in the world is over in Iraq. Not kidding. If you guys have noticed some of the pictures of our vehicles, the front of our vehicles. So as a scout truck, I had multiple lights on the front, not just the headlights. I think there was 8 or 9 maybe 10 lights. And I had one, it's called a go light, that would sit there and I could use a remote control to look and see stuff off the side. So I stopped on this, had my driver stop. And the reason that I had stopped is there was a mud hut on the side of the road. And what I had noticed, and think about it, going 35, you're not going very fast, but stuff still passes you by pretty quick. It was made out of like little blocks that were approximately, this big in size. And there were a lot of those little blocks on the side of the road as well. However, there was one that was probably that long, probably stood about that tall, and was about that wide. Now, what does that tell you guys? Anything? IED possibly, right? So definitely out of place. Who was that over here? Where's my IED guy? That's outstanding. So definitely out of place, and it didn't, which one of these is not like the other? Y'all have heard that little song? It definitely wasn't like the other blocks and bricks. So what I did is we stopped. We was looking at it. I had and it went on our night vision. Night vision. It's a 3 by magnifier, little bitty scope thing. And I was trying to look at it. So I was approximately sitting in my vehicle. I was probably me to you. What's your name? What? Ben? All right. I was about from here to Ben looking at this thing, maybe a little bit further. My gunner up top, he was looking at it as well. My driver was trying to look at it, and we were trying to figure out what this was, if anything. If anything, we stopped on many things that just turned out to be nothing. If you remember, also, routes are red, routes are black, so we couldn't call EOD, which is your explosive unit that comes out, checks it out, blows it up, or whatever if it was a threat. So I'm looking at it, and we're sitting here, and my guys in the back, they're getting anxious. So they're wondering, all right, what's going on, because they can't see anything, and obviously they have to stay on alert. I have it's called a Pass 13. My gunner actually had it. And there's camels over there, by the way, lots of them. And I'm asking him to look through his Pass 13 at this thing, and what a Pass 13 does is it's a heat, kind of a heat type of scope. The reason I asked him to look at it through that is because IEDs, because they are not rocks, because they are explosives, they put off a different heat signature. So I'm trying to look at this thing and identify, I'm trying to see wires, I'm trying to see little, they would use garage door, the motion sensors to put in there and set the thing off whenever you would go by it to make it blow up. I'm trying to look for antennas, just anything that would identify this as an EFP, as an IED, whatever the case may be. Well, we couldn't determine. Now, Blackman, he was he's a big dude, right? Real soft-spoken. Hey, boss, I don't know. It doesn't look like the others, but, it's not like the others. And so, I'm asking my driver, and he's wiry and, I don't know what it is. I can't tell. Let's back up. We got to do. And so what I did is I said, all right, we need to get a better look. So I keyed up, and I have an assistant convoy commander. He was further in the back, my pace guy. I keyed up, and I said, we are going to get a look at the other side. Now, what I had meant at that time is we're going to position ourselves. I'm not going to drive past it. We were going to position ourselves to be able to look more at the back of it. When I drive, and I do it like this because that's where our mics were. We would push the little button and it would go off. So when I keyed up, I said what I said, sent my transmission, and I dropped key. Right then, it exploded. So it must have been some type of, radio frequency, I don't know. Either that or there was a trigger man that was watching and hit the button. At that point, I thought it was immediately, but after talking to my guys, they said, hey, we didn't hear anything from you for about a minute and a half. So found out later, I had lost consciousness at that time. My driver had also lost consciousness. My gunner, he even was kind of exposed. He was okay. But found out later this was an EFP, electronic explosive formed projectile that had, blew up. Now the percussion is what hit us. The percussion is what hit us. Finally, I'm keying up, I guess, after a little bit, and our response, because everybody's back there, and, even though we hear the blast and you feel it from, a good ways away, the percussion, I sent out to everybody, hey, IED. So a complex attack is one that is two different attacks. An attack of small arms fire is one attack. An IED combined with small arms fire is called a complex attack. So at that point, what has happened, and just to kind of give you guys a TTP of our enemy at the time was to blow up or disable that front lead vehicle to obviously block you, right? That way they have free game on the rest of the vehicles in the convoy. So, is it time?
Well, yeah, just wrapping up.
All right. I'll make a long story short. At that time, we started taking enemy fire elsewhere. I say that to say this, and I will close with this as well. That night was a very lonely night because we was out there by ourselves. But what happens at that point is, I tell you, as far as being scared, I was 30-something years old at that time, still 30-something, but I was a lot younger then. At that time, we are scared out there, but that goes away and the training kicks in. All right, the training, veterans have a unique set of skills, and a lot of it has to do with, just the training that once we encounter, a situation in which, you think that you just lose your mind and go crazy. Veterans are able to step back, relax, assess the situation, and then make those, refer to their training and make those, decisions to save lives. I will say this, no one on that night was killed, and it is a great thing. There's my wife and beautiful kids. I ask you all, and there's folks out here right now that, may not think the military is part of them. I did not. 21 years later, I absolutely love it. So, to the veterans that are here, to those that are thinking about it, the one thing that I do say is I thank every single one of our veterans, and I also thank those that choose not to serve. I thank everyone because, as a veteran, you get thanked every day, and it's only just to, I thank you all for the support, whether you join, serve in that capacity or not. I thank you all for the support that has been shown to me for 21 years of my service. And I also, again, in closing, I thank you all about some of my experiences in Iraq. So thank you all very much. Was that 20 minutes? Was that 20 minutes?
Thank you so much. At this time, we'd like to thank our Veteran of the Hour, Clint Flood, for sharing his story with us, and we are honored to have him here today. Presenting a special thanks is our very own Har-Ber High Sergeant Brown. And we'd like to recognize all of the veterans in the audience, so if you could please stand up and be recognized. Give them a warm round of applause. On behalf of Har-Ber High East, we'd like to thank you for attending today, and you're now dismissed to fifth period.